How's it going, everyone? In this next video here, I'm going to be showing you how to properly install a set of wheels. Assemble them, I should say. First one we're going to be doing here is going to be the rear wheel. Show you a couple tools we need to start with. These are the tools you're going to need to assemble. 14mm wrench, 14mm socket, a big fat socket for installing the bearings, an impact driver if you have one. These make life a lot easier. Nice size hammer for installing the bearings. You'll see here in a few. You're going to need an air pressure gauge and an air compressor or some kind of pump. So let's get right into it here. These are a set of stock GoPed wheels. These have been powder coated gloss black, as you can see. They're originally like a silver magnesium color. So to install the bearing here, basically set it in there. You got a big fat socket here. This is a 27mm. I'm going to be using the back side right here. Gives you a big flat surface to work with to pound it in there. Got our hammer here. Get that started pretty good, so a little bit more we got. Now if you got a press or something like that, that always makes it a lot easier, but fortunately I don't have a press to press it in. So make sure it's good and seated in there, it spins freely. Now we're going to install the other side. Got our next one here. Again, on the back side of the socket. Alright, that one's pretty much in. Get a couple more just to confirm, make sure we're good. Alright. Again, make sure it spins freely in there, the bearing. Both sides. So we're good to go on that. Put that aside. So next, we got our bolts here. This is for the rear wheel we're going to be doing. We got all our hardware, our sprocket, our rotor. We got our wheel here. Now this is going to be going on a GSR 46. On the GSR 46, certain peds are certain ways, how you put everything together. But here on the rear wheel, everything's going to be on the right hand side, the rotor, the sprocket, everything. Now if you look here, it says a Kinda 671 tire. It's a directional tire. This right here is facing forward. If you look on the side of the tire, you have a little arrow here that shows you which direction the tire should be rolling. That's the way you want to set it up. Same thing here on this side, shows you the direction. So this is our tire here. We got our tube here. On our tube, we got our valve stem that sticks out on a certain side. You're going to want this sticking out to the left side because you're going to have your rotor and your gear on the right side. If you install this backwards, how are you going to air it up? You're going to have to take and pull it all apart again and reinstall it. Alright, so we'll pull our cap off on here first. Make sure we got our tire in the right direction and our valve stem on the correct side we're going to want to install it on. Get our tube installed in here. So now that we got our tube in there, we're going to put a little bit of air in there. Got our air compressor here. Throw a little air in it. Just to inflate the tube a bit. And a little. There we go. So we got our tube, you can see in there, inflated a fair amount. Nothing too crazy, so you still have room to work with the tire here. Next we got our rims, our two halves of the rims. If you look here in the rim, you have this little opening right here. This is for the valve stem. Same thing on this rim right here. You're going to want to line both those up with the valve stem in there. So go ahead. Got that one lined up here, as you see. Flip it over, get our other half. Same thing again, lining up the open hole with the valve stem. We got both those lined up in there now. So now we're going to put our rotor, sprocket, and everything together. Make sure you have the correct hardware for it. This has all been sorted out, everything's ready to go. Now the rotor here, it's a directional rotor. There's no arrow on it to show you that, but the way you want it to rotate is this going forward. You don't want to have it like this. This is the correct way right here, rotating forward. So we're going to install our hardware through here. Come on over here and pull right there. Nice and steady. Nice and steady. Sorry guys, I got a rookie camera guy here. Alright, so we got our rotor installed right here, our hardware through the rotor. Next we got our spacers. You're going to have your little spacers right here. You're going to install all these on here. Next we got our rotor. This is a 68 tooth rotor. Stock there's 76 I believe. I run a little smaller just because it makes it easier to work with certain things. I can explain more in depth a little later in the video, or in our next couple of videos here. It's a whole series I'm doing on how to build a PED. So you can check out all the other videos here on my YouTube channel on Derek Short. So next we got our spacers in there now. Once we've installed those, now we're going to be installing our wheel. Again, we got our rotors, we got our rims, tire, everything together here. We got our valve stem. You don't want to install it backwards, face down. Make sure you have this face up. I've done it before. I've made the bonehead mistake. I'm sure some of you watching this may have in the past. I don't know, but anyways, so we got our valve stem here. Got our holes or our bolts through the wheel now. Everything's there. So next we got our 4 nuts here. These are not the stock GoPed nuts for it. These have a little nylon, locking system on there. These are a lot easier to work with. I highly recommend it. You can get them on Dave's Motors. If you want to get some ordered up, I got a handful of them that I always have on hand here, just because they are so nice and useful. So get those started. So now that we got all 4 started here, I'm going to grab our impact socket, our impact driver, 14mm socket on there. Take our wheel back up. On the side of it right here, if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend getting one. It's a 14mm 6-point wrench. And what that does, basically, it gives you a lot better grab on there versus a 12-point. And you guys know tools, know what I'm talking about. So we go ahead, put it on the back side here. Got our impact. We'll just set it down. I'm not going to get too crazy tight with it yet. We always want to tighten by hand for the final tighten, just to make sure you know you're good in there. Alright, got that one started. That guy out. Next, when you're tightening, you always want to go crisscross. Never go in a full circle. That one started. And the last one now. So we got that one pretty good. Let's go back and tighten this one up a little more. I didn't get this one down quite all the way. Alright. Now I'm going to grab my wrench. So our ratchet. This is when I'm going to do everything by hand now. Make sure everything's good. Alright. Get that one, crisscross. That one's good. Alright, that one's good. And the last one here. Okay. So now we got all those tightened down. We checked them with our hand to make sure they're tight. We're going to air up the tire fully. Air it up. Alright, make sure our valve stem is centered in here. That's probably the biggest thing you want to worry about, is making sure your valve stem is centered correct and not at an angle, or if your tube's in there wrong, it's putting some strain on your tube in there, and you can slice your tube and get a flat that way. So make sure it's lined up straight. Go ahead and air it up a little more. Now we'll check it, making sure we're good. Got a fancy little gauge here. You don't need anything this fancy. I have it for my car when I go out to the track. But alright, so we're looking at 20 right there. We're going to want a little bit more. This is going to be for street riding. I'm setting it up for right now. For street riding, I recommend about 25 psi. Everyone's got their own preference. That's just what I run for street. 24, so let's get a tad more in there. Alright, let's check. 27, a little bit out, a little more. So pretty close, 25.5. So we'll call that good. Put our valve cap on there. Once you get our valve cap on there, we are done. So this one is ready to rock and roll. Again, we got our corrective direction of our tires to 671. This is facing forward on the GSR 46. This is, facing forward to the directional rotor. We got it facing the correct direction, and then we got our sprocket behind there. We got all our correct spacers. Everything's lined up good. So on the next video here, I'm going to show you how to build the front tire. So there you guys go. Thanks for watching.